This is actually a pretty relaxing song, at least in my opinion. I really like this song. And to think, everybody will say, we're not going to see more of this series, and the only way we do get more of it, we have to read the manga. Well, who's laughing now? Who is wrong? I was wrong, so that's joke's on me now. This is episode 48 of Sparda's World Podcast. Your host, Sparda 3G, telling you that, guess what? They announced a new season. What series? Oh, Shokugeki no Soma. That's right. If you're the one that comes back from the first season, coming back thinking, that first season ending sure seems like there is nothing to be seen anymore from this anime, and now we have to read a manga. And you will be wrong now. Maybe back then you will be right. You'll be right because certainly the anime did end it on the note of saying, read the manga. It did not say, we will be right back. Something that Studio Bones would like to do at these days. Make up their own ending and say, you gotta read the manga to get more out of it. Well, in this case, no. You can get more out of it in the second season. Granted, you can still read the manga. I still recommend you to do that. But, hey, we got a new anime season. So when is the second season going to show up? I don't know. I really don't know. I would say it would be next year for sure. In my opinion, it will be next year. If I have to guess, I would say around summer or fall. Maybe summer. Maybe it would be like, I want to say spring. Actually, spring is possible too. There's a lot of materials for them to take care. Though the manga's still going on, and there's still one arc that we're in that seems to be going to be the longest arc thus far. But anything is possible, so we'll see how they're going to handle the second season. Don't expect third season for a long time, especially if second season really covers a lot of materials of the manga today. But I am happy to see the anime is getting another season, as well as getting a good recognition from the people in Japan and in America as well. It's doing good in selling the volumes. It's doing well. It's been in the top 10 at times. And, it's good to know that people actually enjoy this kind of series. Now, I know people could enjoy the series for the perverted part, maybe, most likely. But I really like the series as a whole. And I do enjoy a lot of aspect of it. And I do find that whole cooking, how much explanation they go through and how the food is being done and how and why it tastes so good in a very reasonable way. That sometimes I would like to try it myself. I like to try to cook it myself. I know some cooking. I'm not the best cooker. I'm no chef, but maybe sometime like this I would kind of wish to be one. I would like to actually try one of the food they made in this series, which there are people at YouTube and other places and other social media that actually really done these food that Soma or other characters even made, and they actually come out good from what I heard. So it's not like I'll make a random dish and make it fake, make it seem so fake. Maybe some could be fake, I don't know, but I did hear there's a recipe book that I actually want to grab my hands on and see if I can learn that. But that would require me learning Japanese first. So two process to work through. But yes, Shokugeki no Soma is getting its second season. And if you haven't seen the first season, do check it out. It's a really, really good series. I think they did a really good job at adapting from the manga itself. Sure, the art is not the exact same, but I do think they make it up for the music quality and the production they already have themselves. Of course, the art is still good for this anime form. They added in a little chibi additions to this certain comedy aspect, which is fine by me. So, all in all, just go ahead and check it out. It's a really good series. It's really enjoyable. I know cooking would be something that'd be like, would I be into that? And I know this series has a lot of fan service, but just go ahead and try. I do think you will enjoy it a lot. So, what about the other series in the next season and the next year? Well, there's a lot of things to talk about there. But I feel like I should save it up for the last episode of this year podcast, this year, because it seems like a lot of news is slowing down. We only have a lot of casting, naming casts, a lot of additional casts, whatever. It seems like they all preparing for the spring 2016, the winter 2016, and even the dub are getting ready themselves to start dubbing the show that's already airing. So it seems like everything is being laid back as a time, because this is the holiday season, and I guess I should just talk about the new anime coming out next year and the last episode this year, which could be the next week, because I heard that next week is the last chapters of the year and everyone else would start taking a long break, especially Weekly Shonen Jump. They would usually take 2 to 3 week break, so we'll see what happens, and we'll just have to see how this year will end with a bang or whimper for these series that I have read, or any series that we've seen. So it has been a good year. Definitely has been a very good year. And I will say this: next year seems heavily promising. It seems like it feels like it could be one amazing year, and not in just the anime department. I mean, we'll talk about that next episode, or whatever the last episode will be for this year. It seems like there's a lot of good things on the horizon for next year, an anime and even cartoons. If you heard about Samurai Jack, we're getting that back, and that's gonna be amazing, if anything. So it seems like a lot of things are coming back from nostalgia, coming back from remake form, coming back and just blow out of the wind. And even the new series, new IPs, a new anime feature series, such as Mob Psycho 100, which I'm looking forward to. So, Boku no Hero Academia, a new series on the horizon. The new series they really pushing to make it to be the next Naruto, Bleach, One Piece. Won't be One Piece, but it will be one of the big sellers. They really want to push that, because Toriko kind of failed for them. Well, actually, they did fail for them. So they want to see Boku no Hero Academia. It already has a promising start. It already has a promising sell without any anime. Now, with an anime with the right production, which is Studio Bones, good start. So, time to see if it can really shake up to be the next big thing. But again, a lot of new series as well, and a lot of remakes, a lot of new series, a lot of nostalgia, a lot of sequels that have been waiting for too long is coming next year. For a lot of series, for a lot of media, games, anime, cartoon, live television series, anything. It just seems rather astounding. But again, we just have to finish off this year, and then we start talking about more about next year. So, what about this podcast? I would say this: next year podcast is going to be more heavily built, and I will let you know what exactly it will mean. And I would talk about it. I would talk about it very briefly in the next. I'm still trying to get my intro. I'm only using song, which is, I think, is fine enough, to be honest with you. But I'm talking about the guy who didn't want to do the intro because he told me I'm the host with the most. I got to get somebody else, or I got to get him to come back. But it's a long vacation because the holiday season. Oh, boy. But I'm going to work on that, so don't worry about it. That's really all for the news. And, yeah, I guess we should get ready to talk about the whole chapter one, shall we? The weekly chapter ranking. So, one thing to say, and honestly, I didn't even follow because I wasn't even aware, but I found out so late that One Piece wasn't going to come out this week. So, no One Piece reviews, no One Piece chapter, no One Piece in the weekly chapter ranking. So, we only have 8 series, and we should start counting them right now. Number 8, Bleach chapter 655. This chapter is rather simple. It's rather straightforward. It's just a guy, Gerard, get knocked down. Then he becomes power up. He becomes a miracle man and just starts attacking them. And he's a Titan. He's officially a Titan that's waiting to be cast in Attack on Titan. That's it. that's it. It's not bad. It's not a bad chapter. It is what it is. I don't know who's that girl. Random new character, I think. Or maybe I just forgot. Number 7, Boku no Hero Academia, Chapter 71. This is a continuation from the continuation from the training, but it's not like we can see the journey. I thought the chapter was actually good. We've pretty much got the story of we got ourselves a usual story of a kid don't like this, don't like the theme, such as would be a ninja, pirate, or superhero in this case. We have a kid that don't like superhero for reasons to be explained, which is already explained. And, of course, the ending should bow to have him change his mind. It's typical, but I don't mind to see how it's written. So, the real interesting part is the very end of the chapter, where pretty much they're going to start upgrading their quirks. So, power up, here we come. Number 6, Nanasu no Taizai, chapter 153. Honestly, I would place this higher, but the other chapter were abusing as well. I thought this chapter was pretty enjoyable, and it was actually good. And something interesting that came to mind. We had a good action scene in the beginning, and there's a lot of exchange coming from Dreyfus, and, it almost feels funny to see Fodrin, which is inside Dreyfus. It's kind of feel funny to see him being wrecked, and I was under the impression he's supposed to be one of the main boss, but he's sure getting easily handled by these guys. Granted, they are strong, but it just seems kind of weird push. But either way, it's still fun to see the exchange of action, and at the very end, we get to see some secret revelation that Goddard is actually one of the commandments. So, interesting to see that development. Hopefully it will explain really thoroughly and enjoyably. And it does scream, my guidance next. So, should be interesting. Number 5, Haku chapter 186. More of a cooldown, even though they had an advantage at one point, and now they're in the deuce. And then an advantage at one point again, and then deuce. So, they go back and forth. But the idea is that they have the idea is it seems like they're in a big struggle, and these guys are really going at it. It's pretty much a prolonging for the inevitable result, and knowing this year is coming to an end, that result might happen next chapter. But it definitely built up more and more of this really epic result of the game, and it's scaring me because I don't know what path the series could go. It could go to a good happy path, or go to a sad path, but everything has to be relying on the future, which is the first and second year. But we'll see what happens in the next chapter. This chapter was definitely good though, so I enjoyed it. Number 4, Fairy Tail, chapters 465. Really good chapters, and I'm not. It's not that the past chapter were bad. They were not bad. They were actually enjoyable, good. But this was really good. This one is a really, really good one. And I enjoyed this a lot, and I really enjoyed the revelation coming from Zero to Dasu. We get to see more on that. We get to explain or talk about more down in the chapter review, but basically the attack is a mystery to whether or not it will succeed or fail. But everything else is all up to debate. But the idea is the revelation that comes from Zerov, explanation about the Dragon Slayers, Anna, Layla. Not entirely, but we get the sense of understanding where this is all coming from. But it's definitely a really good chapter, a really good read. Number 3, Shokugeki no Soma, chapter 147. I really like this chapter too. This is the end result. This is the game over result. Soma has officially defeated an Elite 10 member, Iaizen. I think that's how you say his name. And he beat him in his own game. He schooled him pretty much. Irena is learning more and more. She's being developed, understanding that cooking used to be cooking the way her sense of cooking is always like what I want, what I demand, the usual routine. But now it's something like let's make a surprise effort. Let's make it like a twist to it. So she's starting to understand where they all coming from. They're understanding the family, and she started to appreciate and feel more and more home rather than being shelter. And I really like this. I really like her development going on. Hopefully this will lead to her standing up against her father. And Soma, again, pretty much is explain his ingredients, explains how his food tastes so good, which is result to him defeating him. And it was really well done to how it's illustrated to see Soma has defeated an Elite 10 member. Definitely a good chapter. Good timing to announce the anime too. Number 2, Gintama, chapter 567. If there's any redemption story that's actually being done better than anyone else, it's this story. Nobu is in the redemption mode. He's finally getting to understand what it is to be like to be a shogun, and what is for him to stand up. as Sakamoto is taking on Honkai, and the whole course of action isn't really a fight for Sakamoto or anything for him. It's really more of a development for Nobu, which is needed to be done, and at least he's now going to start to see a different path. It's not like he's already a pure good guy and everything is redeemed. It's just something he has to start to fix up, because everything he has been doing was wrong. Of course, that's all wrong he's been doing. So now let's see where he could go from there. But it's definitely an enjoyable chapter. I really like the teamwork from these guys. From Musu. They really did a good job. It's a really good chapter. Pretty enjoyable, of course. I guess either we get more of the fight, or the Hakan is really done, or we get to see Gintoki going against the other guy, or there'll be a little bit more. We'll see what happens in the next chapter. Number 1, Tokyo Ghoul Re, chapter 57. We have to discuss this in the chapter thread, the chapter reviews. But this was a really, really, really great chapter. It's such a great chapter, a great ending to the arc. It may be one more chapter, but this was a hell of an ending a hell of a way to end in a very scary and very depressing way. Really questionable ending, really controversial. I really want to discuss more of this, but this is the chapter. This series is so great. I know it's hard to try to get it in because it's a seinen. And some people can't take that many gore and blood and whatever. I understand that. But if you can, and if you're willing to read such a good series, go for this one. But definitely a really great chapter. So that's it for the weekly chapter ranking. Might be one more before the new year comes to an end. New year comes to an end. Whoa, I'm really rushing. But I'm talking about this year coming to an end. So we'll see what happens. I know if I say we'll see what happens, you probably hear that the whole thing. It's because I'm like, oh man, it's so unpredictable this world has become, isn't it? But yeah, that's it for the weekly chapter ranking. Only 2 chapter reviews. So let's get to Fairy Tail, because there is actually a couple of stuff that I like to say. Just when you think we're going to get a flashback in this chapter, instead we end up getting a revelation chapter coming from Zero to Natsu. And I'm glad I was wrong to be a flashback chapter. It's all about just the revelation that we already heard, and then some more. And we end up getting more questions. It's actually a pretty good chapter, a really good chapter. Not to say the earlier chapters of the series were bad or anything like that. It's just, they were good and they were enjoyable, of course. It's just this one really strikes me a strong moment between Zeref and Natsu's, and rarely we get these kind of chapters because they always doing the fighting, they always doing a lot of comedy sketch, and the how Fairy Tail always used to do. I mean, they still do that, of course. We just saw that just a previous chapter, but this one is all about revelation. This is all about conflicting emotions from Natsu's. Hearing the entire revelation coming from Zero, the fact that he finally knows that he's brother of him, but he's either in denial. Well, you can't blame him because all this is happening so fast. All this is coming through him, and he's telling him he's the end as well. So everything, it doesn't seem like all of these things that he's learning is not a good thing that he wanted to hear. He thought it would be very simple. And of course, he still kept his mind of destroying Zero once and for all, but this whole thing is also troubling him. And if it weren't for Happy, we don't really know what the case would be if he did his final strike with his final power-up. That's only temporarily from Ignil. So now that's gone. What is next to come? But let's get over to the chapter itself. So before we even talk about what's going to happen in the future. So again, he still have a little strength left. Zeref didn't die from that big strike from the last chapter. He still lives, But this time, Natsu is going to use one final attack, and this will surely, supposedly, guarantee him a winning victory. Which will, I actually like the fact they kept it a mystery, and they kept it in a mindset of maybe of a question that forever be a question, because this is a temporary power up that came from Ignil, who is dead, who is already gone. So, of course, we're not going to get another power up. Oh, maybe you can. Ass pull could happen. Or just he show up again somewhere in some light. You never know. It is rather strange that this power up is made for one time only. But I guess the idea is you have this one final power up. You have this temporary one. So please use it. And if you don't manage to end your greatest enemy, your greatest foe with this strike, and this power up disappear, then all hope is lost. I guess that's the idea where this story was going through, with Natsu at the very least. But then that's where Zero started to talking to him, telling him about the whole, about Zero himself, as he should be happy about this and everything like that. But at the same time, he's also going to live because he is chosen to destroy the world for himself. So, it may be back to the time where he was still like in the island just waiting for his Natsu to kill him. But now he decided, I'm going to live. I'm going to live and destroy the world. So if I'm going to die, I'll be happy. If I'm going to live, I'll be happy. So either way, I win. But then this is where he started to talk to him. And Natsu's, he's really pissed throughout this chapter. He gets more pissed as the time goes on, which is something we haven't really seen from Natsu. I mean, not with the Nakama friendship thing, which is, basic thing, but this one is actually more about him and his personal issues coming from Zero, that's just telling him everything that he never gets to hear, especially the brother part, which shocked him. And this is where more shocking comes in, which we already heard or even seen from the flashback earlier chapters on. The whole him being a brother, him being using the demon power, using the end. We all heard that from before. However, there are more revelations that comes to it, and this is where the interesting part comes in. And Natsu, he's questioning everything. If he couldn't destroy N. So if that's the case, why he didn't destroy me easily? And that's because he carried you so much. He couldn't kill you, but he did. I mean, maybe he could have. Well, actually, he could have, because he was a young state. He was a child back then. So this is where he got the end of the book. The book of end. He threw it on the ground and he take a shot at it, and this is where Natsu actually get hurt. So in other words, he could actually take him down easily. So yes, he's part of the demon thing, and this only gives me the idea that Gray is going to have a hard issue with this, because destroying the end, which he promised his father to destroy the end, which he hell-bent desire to destroy N, it connects to Natsu. So if Gray destroyed N, he will keep that promise to his father, which it would be nice for him. However, he will lose his best friend in the process. So of course he doesn't know that yet, but I do think that Natsu should tell him, or Happy should tell him. Somebody has to tell him, because this is something that would accidentally kill Natsu, and they won't even know it. They don't even know, and they don't even know he's Ender. They don't know he's the brother of Zero. Everything is coming to light. Only Natsu and Happy is hearing all this story, or hearing this entire story coming from Zero. So I guess the only one I can see it happening is Happy is the one that spilled the bean, because again, they are fighting this great enemy Zero. And another thing, and that's another thing, which we get to that very soon. So it's not that he got affected by N book getting hurt, so as Natsu. We actually start to get more of a different aspect of the story that we have not yet answered, and that's the whole dragon purpose, the dragon slayer purpose. This is where we find out with the whole Ignil was actually meeting with Zerov, and that's where they were. They actually told about the plan to, he wanted to teach Natsu the dragon slayer magic. So this is where the entire plan comes in, where they were bringing the
bringing the Dragon Slayers. This is where they started to get the idea to have Dragon Slayer train them using these guys to be Dragon Slayer. And we find out their main purpose of training them and then go in time isn't in fact for against the dragons. Rather, you could argue it's still for the dragon, but the real main purpose is to actually defeat Akanuya. So that's the real purpose of the Dragon Slayer being trained. It makes the most logical sense too. He does seems to be the one that's really corrupted this entire dragon and the relationship of humans and everything else, including within. So remember, he was a human before that, he ended up turning a dragon. So it seems like now they wanted to have a Dragon Slayer. And hopefully they don't repeat this mistake, but they're not, because they put themselves inside the Dragon Slayers before. But the idea is they want the Dragon Slayers to be trained and destroy Akanuya, and pretty much that's what they go for. And they use the children they chose, and they brought up the one that's pretty much the orphans. They chose Wendy, Sting, Rogue, Gajio, and Natsu. So it's a good thing he almost, I actually kind of thought he was gonna plot hole himself by mistake by having Laxus and that Snake guy, because they were experimented, so they were like different story. These guys were legit orphans that were actually connected to the dragons, and I don't know why they don't really know each other from the past, but maybe it might be some little bit of logical reason to it. Maybe there might be explained for that. But this is where the more question comes in. Now we heard the name Anna from the last chapter. Then we actually get it more in. I wouldn't say more too much in depth, but we actually get more of her, and she is in fact a celestial spirits wizard, and this is where she did the favor of sending them in time with the eclipse, the eclipse, and go to the future. So then they again, more explanation that they followed her plan. They sent to the time where the Eternano was more stronger. The concentration was more higher than before, and that's where they go to the next spirit wizard, and that's Layla, the mother of Lucy. And it happened to be on the 7th of July, X777. So that was the day that they thought that the dragon were missing. But the fact is that that's the day that Natsu had awoken. So basically, these 5 children are in fact are traveling from 400 years ago to today's time. So this makes sense. This is crazy how it really connects to this whole story building up from the time we started to see Dragon Slayer. I'm not talking about just Natsu or Gaji. I'm talking about like once Wendy shows up with Sting and Rogue, and once we saw that whole Dragon Fiesta one, that whole arc itself, it's starting to connect more and more. And I'm going to say that Anna, as they explain more of her, who she really is, I will say she is connected to Lucy. I would say that is her ancestor. It seems like their job is to help Zeroth and everything else. But, now the time is different. There's no need to help. Now Zeroth is hell-bent to destroy everyone in the world. So, how Lucy's going to be part of all this, time will tell, I guess. But it does really connect to everybody else. And this is where Zeroth is, you don't know if this final strike will kill him, but you can give it a shot. If a final strike kills him, if final strikes kill Zeroth, then good, because there's one thing that he has to tell him. If he dies, so has Natsu. Even more conflict. Again, you could destroy the book, you kill Natsu. You kill Zeroth, you kill Natsu. So this needs to be told to everyone at Fairy Tail, because this is very important, especially for Gray, which she's going to have a lot of conflict unless he just drop it very easily, which I'm hoping that's not the case. I want him to go through a tough decision. I think it will boil down to not destroy M for the sake of Natsu, but it's all about how it's written. It's all about how the path is being told, how the story is being told, And Gray, again, Natsu and Gray are best friend. They're rivals and everything else about them. So killing Natsu is a huge thing that he doesn't want. And I guess it does make sense to have that scene where Gray is like, I'm not really mad at you guys or Urza, but it's just I don't want Natsu to get in trouble. I care about him. He didn't say that, but you remember that two chapters ago. They have that scene. I guess that's the explanation why Hiro Mashima put that scene, which I still think is a little forced, but it does connect, so I'm gonna give a pass. But that's where Natsu is gonna get one final strike, so it's like a win-win situation for Zeref in a way. You kill if the attack does kill him, then hooray, you win. Zeref is happy; he finally gets to see peace. As Natsu will just die. If he doesn't kill Zeref, hooray, he's alive. He gets to destroy the nations. So, yeah, that's not a bad. It's a win-win for Zeref, lose-lose for Natsu. And then that's where Happy decided not to let it go, stopped them because Happy is really afraid and took the story from Zeref, which is actually a real story. I don't think he's lying. Why would you lie? It's a true story that if Zeref dies, so is Natsu. And he doesn't want to see that. And, the fact that Natsu was really hell-bent to destroy him, Happy sees it like that Natsu is being so selfish because he's not thinking about everyone else. He's not thinking about the friends. He's going to be like, well, I'm dead, and I got him out. Cool. But that shouldn't be the case. That's not what they agreed upon, I guess you could say. So now they're going back to Fairy Tail, and Natsu seems very disappointed, but at the same time, what can he do? He could have died. And he does make him, and Happy put him on the spot that, like, you're being so selfish of just trying to take him out without considering us, not caring about you. So the power disappear, and Zeref pretty much proclaimed, there's no way you can stop him now. It's all over. Chapter ended there. This was again, like I said, there's a lot of good scene in this chapter as well. This whole more story to it. More questions about like Anna. What is this whole story with that? And the idea with with the whole Dragon Slayer, how Igneo and Zera pretty much, I guess you could say, agreed upon. There's more to the question to that, but I guess we have to wait a little longer for that, a little bit more of an answer. But it is interesting to see how much it is connecting well. And I'm really enjoying this. I'm really enjoying this. It's not that easy. Well, I wouldn't say not that easy, but it's something that I guess I haven't got that thrill from Fairy Tail in a while, which is a good thing because I'm not saying it was always a bad case of series. It's just it's been a while, and I know a lot of people like to say the Tartarus arc did help it up a lot. And the last arc was more of a show off their power up after a year later. And it's whatever like that, which is okay to me. But this is a lot of development, a lot of twists and turns, and Zera being the main focus is really captivating on my end, making me very interested to see how this entire arc unfolds. So overall, pretty good chapter. I was really enjoying this one. I really like the shots from Natsu being irritated and being not comprehending the idea that Zeref is telling him all this story, what Natsu's plan, who Natsu is, what's the connection between Zeref and him. It's really, it's really hard to take it in, but that's what Zeref does. He just he just tells you what it is, and you just have to accept it, even if it's, really hurtful. And again, I think everybody should know, and hopefully they will know very soon before they do something stupid to it. So we'll see what happens in the next chapter. Next chapter is it's called Assassin. So we'll see what that goes to. I guess we're gonna have more fighting, but I do hope we get more of Natsu's telling these guys, or Happy. I can see more of Happy telling them that he's not. There's a reason why it didn't go through as planned. So yeah, I'm actually excited for this series. Oh boy, where do we begin with this chapter? Suffice to say, a hell of a chapter for a really non-action chapter, if anything to be considered. But the path we're going to. Well, let me first say this. This arc is officially the parallel version of Ogiri arc. Whereas that arc changed the protagonist, Kanaki, into a different being. Or the same guy, but a different attitudes, different personality, a different man, all in all. So in this arc, Sasaki is gone, Kanaki is back, and unfortunately, he is ruthless, cold, and selfish. So that will mean the next arc could be our kind of lab raid arc, right? Well, it won't be the exact same raid. It won't be the lab. Maybe it'll be the lab. It'll be kind of too much of a parallel, but who knows? It still seems possible. They could just have them to go invade the entire base of Ogiri, where the lab is being produced, and where Ito is at, and everyone else in there. So, hey, maybe it's not that far-fetched to have a parallel of that arc after all. But again, this arc is officially the arc that everything changes from there on. This is the arc where a lot of path has changed, where where everything has been. Again, Ogiri arc. After that arc, there was nothing to return back. I mean, we seen Kanaki trying to go back, but then that's ended in a very, very dark way. With the Hoateku being destroyed by the CCG themselves. So in this case, now we just see him being as a different guy from Sasaki, of course. The days of Sasaki being so pure, so gentle, so, kind of like living down to earth and having a good time, just laughing, just enjoying with his family, and, loving the mother-son bonding that he has with Akira, sorry. But now it seems like this is all about doing what he wants to do best for himself. And even though, of course, arguably he's trying to either save the friends or not save the friends, it's still arguable, which we're going to get to that because this is something we have to discuss. Even though that's even the case, the way he's doing is the same thing he's doing as before. Cold, selfish, and just a loner, a lone wolf. That's what he does. He's trying not to have his family, his friends involved, which in the shonen universe, it would sound good. In real life way, it's really selfish and it's really not a good idea at all. And I know he's trying to do his best, but again, it's not about them, what they think. It's about what he thinks. And that's where the problem arises. So this chapter itself is pretty much the conclusion of the arc, or maybe there might be another chapter, maybe a 57.5. It could happen in the next one, which I heard that the next chapter will be the last chapter of this year, and we will have a long break before we get to see the next arc, which is going to be very important. And every arc is important in this series, but the next one is going to be crucial. This one is already crucial enough for having Sasaki ultimately sleeping forever, or hopefully he doesn't sleep forever, because I really missed the guy already. Yes, I know Kanaki could bring a lot of juice, a lot of flavor to the story, and again, I'm talking in a way of being emotionally invested with the series, and because I'm so invested with the series, I really wish to see Sasaki back, and this Kanaki is not helping me. So, going back from the beginning, I was hoping that Kanaki doesn't do the rash decision and try to fight back against Yui, even though that is really crazy. Whether he's strong enough to do that or not, it doesn't matter. It will cause so many problems. So he tells him a reasonable explanation with everything what he's been doing, and that's just rejuvenating. Since he was exhausted and he needed to replenish his health. And, all the other reason he says, something that needed to be said, is reasonable enough for him. I guess he took it as it is. Fair enough. what I'm actually surprised, he didn't really tell Ito identity. This would have been a good time. Now, granted, he could tell them back at a conference, and maybe he might do that. But in here, he didn't say anything. He just told them he didn't defeat her. She knows that she's alive. He knows that she's alive, and whatever is done is done. So basically, they have one last job to do. The main job they came there for. And unfortunately for them, they have a lot of people to sacrifice. A lot of people dying for this mission alone. Even though there's a lot of different, like a lot of different scenarios just keep coming in. Like Noro just show out of the blue, Kanai with a power boost, and this whole thing just became a tragic disaster. So now they got to do one final mission, and Sugiyama mission, the whole extermination. They find him. Sasaki explained the story that why he didn't get to the Terminator, because he was busy with the whole one-eyed ghoul, and then this person, Kanai, showed up first before, this whole crazy mayhem happened on the rooftop. So now, Kanaki is finally going to do his job. And one would think that he's probably would just do something to cover his track or save Shu, but instead he really went to exterminate him. Now, let me just try to argue this out. People are saying what he's doing is saving Shu, and this is the main argument that people keep coming with. He's saving Shu by throwing off the roof, knowing that he would survive the fall, and he would know that Kanai would show up and try to save him, and it's all according to plan. This is a bit of a reach, in my opinion. It can happen, it is possible, but I feel like the only one I could accept more so than what these people have been saying is just throw Shu off the roof and just hope for the best he survives. If he survives, he survives. If he dies, he dies. That's what I really believe. Because the way he's handling him, why not just toss him out? Why not just flung him to the different floor? Why not just flung him into a different rooftop of a building? Why not just flung him in a different building itself? Instead, not only he hurt him, not only he impaled him a couple of times, or maybe just once actually. He impaled him once. Why do all that? And the way how we see, and I know it is possible that he is trying to save him by just tossing off the roof. But that's the thing. It's a gamble. And you could be right. For him, he probably just did that and hope for the best that he survives. If he survives, he survives. If he dies, he dies. He could have survived if nobody show up in there. Maybe, I'm not sure. It's hard to say. But point is, I don't know if he really think about that. And I really don't think he really thinks that Kanai would come out there and try to save him. Because the way how it looks from the reaction shot, the idea is that Kanai was so fast that Yui is supposed to exterminate him. He was going to exterminate Kanai, but he was so fast that even when he tried to do the impalement, he missed. And that's where the idea of like, whoa, he shockingly this quickly escaped from my extermination. I think that's the real point. If that's the real point, then that means Kanaki most likely doesn't really. I have the idea like, oh, she's gonna be fast enough to save him, so I'm just gonna wait and just toss him out. Here we go. It's not. I don't think that's really the case. I think it's more like, oh, okay, this could work out better. Maybe there's more of that the case than so. What people are saying like, oh, all according to plan. It's more like, well, it's a gamble, but here it goes. If he dies, that sucks. But there's a lot of close-up shot in this chapter. A lot of art being so well done, drawn that it gives you the right idea. It gives you the idea of what is exactly he's feeling about this whole thing. Now I know he says farewell to him, and he say I'll be going now. I just think he should have handled this much differently. I mean, I know you can't just say, let's spare her life, because they already established they need to exterminate them. That's their job. I understand that. But the way how he leaves Shu thinking that he really changed for the worse, in his opinion, he's changed to a CCG, and that's already telling enough for Shukuyama to never follow him again, never try to get him back again, because this is the path he has chosen. And again, this does say, No, of course, I think he stayed because many reasons. One of them has to be the fact that he wants to save Hinami, and that could maybe be true. That's most likely true. Second one is obviously not getting in trouble because everybody would kill him. Everybody would go after his ass. So it will make the most sense of that too. But I think the former is the where the most sense comes in. So again, the way how he looks at him and falling down to his grave, it's really hard to argue what Kanaki truly think of. Even I know a lot of people keep saying like, "Oh, don't you remember he said don't kill him, don't kill him, don't kill him, don't kill him." Yeah, I remember that, and it's true. He did say don't kill him. I get that. It's just this Kanaki is more of a, you know what? Fuck it. That's the Kanaki we're seeing right now. We're not seeing like the sadness and the despair one that we seen as the child in the mind of Sasaki. It's still that child, but now it's more of a I want to die with a bang. That's how I love to go out. I just want to die with a bang, and we're going to love it. That's the idea. That's the mindset we're seeing today with Kanaki. Like he does have no real sense of emotion with others anymore. So it's really hard to say. If anything, I find this one to be more colder than the last series, the white haired version of Kanaki. I find this more colder. I find it more darker the way how Yui told not Sasaki, well, he used to be Sasaki, Kanaki, to clean himself up. He's bleeding in his head, and it just tells you like this guy is like a you normally you would just clean yourself up or anything like that after the whole thing is done, but instead he's like leaving like, hey, look at me, I'm a murderous bastard. So it just seems like he really is really in a dark path. So Tsukiyama, Shu, and Kanai, or should I call her Karen in this case, so she jumps up there, she's trying to save him. There's a lot of German language speaking, which is really makes it more compelling and makes it more of a more touching scene to it. This is his native language, and the way how they talk as they keep falling down. I actually was convinced at one point they both was going to die together. I don't know why I was convinced, but they really made it well convinced to me. And not only that, but it was pretty convincing that this whole tragic, I guess you could call it romance tragic between these two is really, really touching. It's really sad. The dialogues exchange, I find them very convincing. I find them very heartbroken, and then this is where Karen, she finally got what she wanted. She wanted to tell him her feelings. She wanted to hear Shu to say something back to him, and say something very compliment, and say something that it will bring tears to her joy, brings love to her life. She finally got that, and unfortunately, she's going to die for that. But one last final effort, she tossed Shu away to a different spot in order to save him, as she's the one to take the fall, literally and metaphorically, and proceed to die for what we see. And it doesn't help that the fact they just found out, they just saw a ghoul from the CCG, found the ghoul, which is Kanai or Karen, in the ground. So they pretty much gonna exterminate her, and that's the end of her. Ah, boy. I remember people appreciate the author a lot. I still do. Oh, hell, of course I do. But where do they stand right now? How many deaths do we have seen? I have 4 deaths that I didn't want to see them die. Do I hear 5? So, yes, Karen is now dead. Rest in peace. Really sad, actually. I really like this character, and this was her character was pretty much like a tragic-based character, and the way how it was drawn here, the way how it was dealt with, I say, really good job on her. Really good job. Now we get to the part that actually got me furious, and really, I really wanted Sasaki back. And, it doesn't help that you won that panel where you see Ure finally proceed to speak upon Kanaki. Just seeing Kanaki with that expression, that is so Kanaki, and it kind of irritates me because he has that look of like, I look kind of innocent, but when I start talking, I'm gonna be a total asshole to you. So I don't know why. That's the expression. This is so Kanaki. Sasaki expression is more purity, I guess you could say. He's more happy with life, even if there is something tragic coming in. And I know this is a tragic event, but again, that Kanaki face just says it all. It's the same face that you saw where when after the whole Ogiri arc ended, he looked at the moon and know the world is fucked up. So it feels like this one is the exact same expression. And when they come to meet with Ure, of course, here's the thing. Ure, what he's trying to talk about. Now, people are saying that Ure is not talking about him fighting. He's not talking about Sasaki, why he didn't come sooner to help us to fight. But it made it sound like, some people think he said, why you didn't come here to pay respect to your friend. It could be either way, I guess. But that's not my problem. Now, of course, Sasaki, you know what I mean. I'm going to quote with him. Sasaki, he had a hard time. He fought a AAA Ghoul. Come on. It's already enough. He fought a Kanai in all power of form. And he had to take a shoot in the first place. So that's a lot of work for him. Now, you can't blame Sasaki for that. But there are many reasons to answer back. And to my knowledge, in my opinion, when I see the panel with one bubble saying, "Is this my fault now?" It's all black. To me, that's pretty much saying that this is a response in a very dark manner, in a very not equality manner. I'm not saying he should say, "I'm sorry for your loss," or "I'm sorry it didn't come sooner," or anything like that. But the beginning response is already sense of being cold, because it's like, I'm not saying you should not take the blame or take any fault to it, but why would you start off by saying, "Oh, is this my fault now?" Like, it's made it sound like, don't put your blame on me. Like, don't be an ass. Why you think it's my fault? Like, how is this my fault? It's the response of like, "Oh, you're gonna get into argument. Please don't do this. This is not a good time to argue." But here, it just seems like, again, it's like that kind of case. And then that's where he's telling him, who was it if I was fighting alongside him, Ure? And Ure just pretty much in total shock and putting himself into the blame. And he's telling him what he heard back in Jason and Riza, or Giddy Art. Again, another parallel. We're saying all losses in this world are due to a lack of ability. If you want to curse something, curse your own weakness. Again, this is understandable. I can understand where he's coming from, and I can understand that this is what he needs to hear. Ure. However, how it's being said is not the right way. It is more of a dark manner way, a cold way, a way that it could have said any more encouraging, more better, and more understanding. It's essential of saying deal with it in a negative way. There is always a different. It's all about saying it in a more respectful manner, and I guess you could try to argue that saying the way he said to him could either bring in the bad path of Ure and his Q squad, or it could be a good thing. It's hard to say, but this is the way how he put the blame all on him. And it's not even like he was fighting alongside with him. Oh, it was you. You were fighting alongside with him. Well, gee, I wonder why did Shurazu have to die then? It's kind of that kind of sense of way. And of course, Ure might most likely gonna push himself further and further to get stronger. But the way this is something that Kanaki has went through before. So will Ude repeat the same mistake as Kanaki? And that's what fears me the most. And it's sad because Ude was in the path of doing a good thing, as in getting better, getting more communicated with his team, getting more respectful with his team, not thinking about promotion this, promotion that. The selfish being was out of the way at that time. And it's sad that he has to lose a friend, a really close friend, in order to understand more of this, or more of the path he was going through. But now Kanaki put this line of him is like, hey, be my 2.0. What do you say? It's just baffling. And it's really hard to tell what is the position now. This isn't Sasaki. It's hard to understand what the position we're seeing right now. Is he playing a part? Does he really care about Q Squad? The family of Sasaki, the one he cares so much, the one he holds dear heavily. And that's what we don't understand. And that's why I'm still arguing to this day. And you know what? I would say wait for the next chapter. Wait for the next chapter. And let's see where they stand. It's the same thing what happened after Orgiddy arc, where we see Kanaki, hanging out with his crew, Banjo, Hinami, and others, where they were just hanging out. It seems like everything is kind of normal-ish, but Hinami already know that something is wrong with Kanaki, as in he's being very, very lonely. So maybe Q Squad, one of the members, would start to see Sasaki is not being the same guy. He's something cold and mean spirited. That could be that. If that happens, then that means this guy is once again the selfish guy from the last series. So we don't know where his stand. The fact that he got promoted, which is reasonable, he got promoted to be special class, and it is the idea to, try to help out to save Hanami from Akira. That's a reasonable thing. However, in addition, in his own behest, he was relieved of his duty as a mentor of the Q Squad. Now, on one hand, he's doing it because he knows they're ready. On the other hand, he's doing this to sever all ties with the Q Squad. But then this is again going back to the selfish idea. If he's going for Hinami, great. That's great if he's going for Hinami. However, he's going to sever all ties with the Q Squad. This is Sasaki family. Sasaki didn't want to destroy all the ties from Kanaki, but the Kanaki is going to destroy all the ties with Sasaki's? Is that what I'm seeing? I hope that's not the case. In a way, it kind of gives you the idea from the first big arc of this series, where Sasaki was about to go Kanaki form, and then where Saiko was crying, telling him don't leave, and he didn't respond back. That tells me like, I don't know you. That's Sasaki's problem, so whatever. And I hate that. I really hate that Kanaki. I always hated him since that. I'm going to be the first to say I hated him when he was like that in the first series. Yes, he's more badass. Yes, he's more cold. Yes, he's more ruthless. But in terms of characteristic, I did not like that guy. I really didn't like that guy. I was liking him more when he was becoming the way he was as Ateku Radar, where he started to understand. He started coming back to his senses, where he got schooled by Toka good. And that's where he get the understanding like, oh, I was doing wrong and I do apologize for everything. I don't want a severe tie, and everybody's always going to keep close to him. But instead, everything was way too late. The Ateku raid happened, and they lost their family from the before. And then to make matter worse, we still don't know where Heaton's at. And to make it finalize worse, Arima took him out with ease. So now what about the position today? I don't know. I waited for the next chapter to tell me where he stands with Q Squad, Akira, and the entire CCG themselves. I really hope he's not that cold. I really hope he was planning to save Shu. We need a lot of confirmation of what his plan. Because Shu already got the idea that he chose his path, and Shu accepted and depressed about it, which is, again, understandable because they were friends. They were enemy first, and then they became friends. And, at least Shu, Kanaki did have respect with Shu when he told him farewell when he was a very depressed mode at the near end of the series, the first series. Now look at him, different. So We'll see where this is next stand. We'll see where he stand, but I do hope I'm wrong. I seriously hope I'm wrong. The fact that he left the Q squad is already telling me that he either tried to severe tie or I don't know. I really don't know. Hell of a chapter. Is this the last chapter of the arc? Could be. Next chapter could be the point 5, which would be the extension of ending of the entire arc itself, or it could be the beginning of a new. It's the last chapter. Next chapter is the last chapter of the year. At least that's what I was told. I could be wrong, but hopefully I'm not, because I need reassurance right now. Bad. And that will do it for today's episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. No Q&A. I'm going to save it for next year, because next year I'm going to do some redecoration on my channel, my podcast and all. We'll see how much I can do. And I know this year is already ending, and I gotta say, this was a very fast, very quick year to pass through. In fact, I'm still kind of stranged out that, well, in the mid-December, it's 60 degrees in New York City. If you live in New York City, you know exactly why this is strange. Seeing people in shorts. I was expecting some cold winter, heavy coat, snow, but I'm not getting any of that. Maybe the world is coming to an end. So, next year, I definitely am going to have some reorganization. They're going to have a lot of things to change up, spice it up a notch. And hopefully it will get done soon. As long as I get that guy to do my introduction, wherever he is right now. Leave a comment below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Support and spread the words. So I'll see you next time for more Sparda's World Podcast. Take care, everyone.